Do you know the 14 traits of successful chiropractors? We've interviewed some of the top chiropractors in the industry and have identified the common traits that they all share. Jump on over to www.chirobusinessmojo.com to get your free report today.
Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo podcast. Well, thanks again for coming and hanging out with me. 2016 has been a great year for us. We started the podcast in July, and it has witnessed explosive growth since that time. We have been so excited to hear from so many wonderful guests who have contributed a lot of valuable content, I believe, to our businesses and our lives. It's been such an honor to be able to serve you and bring you all of the great information I think we've been bringing you. So I have a big announcement. Things are going to be a little bit different. We are going to go down to a once-a-week podcast. I know you may be saying, hey, I love getting it, a couple of times a week, 3 times a week, and sometimes 5. And I agree. It's great having that content out there. But Haley and I are working on some very big things for 2017. We are so excited about what we are working on and what we are going to bring you. But we need some more time to really put things together. And so we are going to bring the podcast down to once a week. A lot of great guests I know you're going to love upcoming. These are more great top-level chiropractors, business owners, marketing people, entrepreneurs who are eager to share their information with you so that you can have the most successful year in practice you have ever had. So hang in there, and I know you're going to love what is just around the corner. There will be more information on that coming up soon. In the meantime, my guest today is Dr. Joe Ferrantelli. He graduated with honors from Florida State University in 1995 with a BS in Biological Sciences. While enrolled in his chiropractic education, he completed his certification to become a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the N.S.C.A, passing his certification in 1995. He earned his D.C. degree from Life University, graduating Magna Cum Laude in March of 1999. Dr. Ferrantelli has appeared in many top research journals, and in 2010, he took over as CEO for PostureCo Incorporated, a leading technology company focusing on software development for clinicians and fitness professionals specializing in postural and spinal rehabilitative methods. Let's welcome Dr. Joe Ferrantelli.
Hey, well, glad that you guys asked me to be on. I'm excited.
Well, we are so excited to have you on the show today, and I invite you to jump in and fill in any gaps I may have missed in that bio.
No, the bio seems like it's pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey as a chiropractor and the research you've been involved with.
So in the very beginning, I went to, after I graduated with a biology degree from Florida State University, I'd always wanted to be a chiropractor, ever since shadowing with a bunch of doctors, and my chiropractor that I got into when I was in sports and powerlifting and weightlifting I was under care, and obviously no symptoms at that time, so it was purely for health and alignment reasons and for performance that I got into chiropractic and got interested in it. And when I followed some MDs and spoke to MDs, they all basically seemed like they were not excited about practicing. And when I followed my chiropractor around, he was really excited, loved what he did. And his father, who was an osteopath, told him to be a chiropractor and he'd be much happier. And he was telling me the same thing. So from there, after I got my bachelor's degree, I went to Life University in Georgia. And that's where I started my studies.
Now, how did you get involved in research?
So early on in chiropractic, there was a lot of things that were not making sense to me. And I almost dropped out and went back to pursuing a medical degree. And then I stumbled upon early on this crazy guy that had a lot of research named Don Harrison that was very flamboyant, but everything he said was backed up, and I could look it up in journals and things like that early on. And it just clicked and resonated with me that when he taught, he would say what his opinion was, but then he would say, this is what we have as fact and research. And I started on studying chiropractic biophysics early on, so that would be in 1995, and just went through their seminars and began working with them, and more I got to know them. They asked me to help out on some research projects, and basically he taught me a lot of stuff about research and took me under his wing early on. So to this day, I'm still involved with chiropractic biophysics and actually doing research projects with them, and I'm a member of their nonprofit spinal research board, as well as an instructor. So today I fly out in a few hours to go up to Atlanta. We have a cervical rehab seminar, a matter of fact. So I'm still involved on that aspect of teaching as well.
Well, I love the research side of things too. It's just nice to see that there is validity to what it is that we do, and there's so many different things that we do, especially posture. It's nice to to have the findings there to back up and support how our care can help posture. So, speaking of posture, let's talk about PostureCo.
Yeah. So basically, what happened early on was that we needed a software branch of chiropractic biophysics, or somebody to develop software to do some of these projects. Early on, we were doing spine modeling research as well as posture research. So we had contracted out with different companies to do different projects for us, but then we found that we had to kind of do it all ourselves. So we got some people together and formed a company called PostureCo, which Don Harrison was originally part of, as well as Dr. Sang Harrison, Deed Harrison, and another person, Dr. Denise Perrone. And I was involved, obviously. And in 2010, we had just a little bit of a change up as far as one of the people that was involved couldn't do it full time. So I went ahead and took over the company in 2010, and right around that time I started slowing down in practice and eventually sold my practice and now do this full time. So it's basically the technology component that took over what we'd used for research methods for X-ray analysis. We developed a clinical tool that could help build a practice as well as document their findings, kind of a radiographic EHR program. As well as we had some posture software that was called Posture Screen at the time that was all Windows-based. Basically, as time would have it, around 2010 when there was rumblings of the iPad coming out, I went to Don Harrison and said, I think I have a better way. I'm going to sink all my investments into finding the right programmers, and I think if this iPad comes out, it's going to be a godsend for being able to be mobile and quick with posture assessments. And that's right around the same time that I filed a patent for it as well, too.
Yeah, I have used the app on iPads for measuring posture and assessing it and educating patients on what it is we're seeing. But for those who aren't familiar, why don't you take us through a little bit of the highlights of how that app works?
Yeah, great. So there's a lot of aspects to it now. Back in 2010, it was just real simple posture analysis. So basically you can take a photograph of the patient on your iPhone or iPad, or even on Android for that matter. And it will take we have a center balancing for make sure the device is level when you take the photograph, and reproducible as well too. And it will tell you where to click on the person's posture, and then we'll analyze their posture comparing the body part above to the body part below, and the planes relative to, say, the floor. And it gives you a PDF document, both one that's a 2-view analysis for patient education, as well as you can do a very clinical, detailed 4-view analysis with the patient documentation, and feed that into your EHR for your own records, and be able to do follow-up exams as well as trend analysis on them to see how their posture is changing with the course of your care. So it's a great tool for educating. There's a lot of people that use it for, spinal screenings, but I would say at this point more people use it in their office clinically than they do, out at outside events. And then from that standpoint, what I next did was I knew there was some difficulties in doing body composition. And so I went back and worked with one of our mathematicians that we used for spine modeling research, and asked him about some equations that I could use to predict a person's circumference from 2 photographs. And so from that, we're able to develop what we call lean screen, which is basically a mathematical measurement of a person's circumferences, and we can feed that into well-known body composition equations to estimate a person's percent body fat, their waist to hip ratio, lean body mass, fat body mass, and BMI. So that's one good avenue, because if you're working on somebody's subluxations and somebody is, overweight or not fit, that's going to hinder their progress to becoming healthy. So we have numerous doctors that have, part of their practice is nutrition and weight loss and lifestyle, and then they have their chiropractic practice. And if people come in with one funnel, say of with lifestyle and wanting to lose weight and things like that, doctors had a problem with showing them that they also had spinal problems. So from the same photographs, you can also do their posture assessment.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say we got a couple other things as well, too, that we can do, something that sports-minded doctors are using, which are like functional movement screens, like an overhead squat assessment, and link those movement dysfunctions to corrective exercise protocols as well. So that's one of the later add-ons that we've had recently, too.
Cool. Now, does that utilize video, or is that still using?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So it uses video, so we can go ahead and take a video of someone doing an overhead squat, then do a still frame of their start and their end position. We still have the video to go back over and annotate and draw on as well, too. That always stays saved, as well as being able to digitize them, just like you digitize the posture. You would digitize their lower descent in the squat, from the front, from the side, or from the posterior view, as well as you can also do the push-up and plank as well. And based on those dysfunctions, there's literature that will show, based on certain values, we can predict underactive or overactive muscle groups. So from that information, we can feed into corrective exercise protocols that you can feed to the patient or client and give them their exercises in video format. We have over about 3,000 exercises now at the fingertips of professionals that have a company we work with called Web Exercises to serve that content. It works pretty well.
Well, that sounds great. I want to share with the listeners my personal experience with it, and how I have used it. So, two big ways I think that have been really important. Number one is that sometimes there's a bit of a gap between the mind and the body, and that is, you were speaking about weight and BMI, and I've had people that have a fairly high BMI just really not understand why they're having knee pain. And
right.
Being able to show them visually, well, here's what's happening, here are the stresses and the forces, this is how this is affecting your posture, really helps them to understand what it is that we do. And the other thing, I think that in a screening setting, it's been nice because it's a very easy software to use to put something, I bring a printer and I have it right there, and I do the handout, I give it their posture analysis as a handout to them so that they have something in their hands to take with them. And, it may not be the next day, but eventually they'll hang on to that and call us back and talk to us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest things when I was in practice was you need something to set yourself apart and to be unique and different. And this is just one aspect of it. And that's one of the reasons why we have the reporting section is for that. It's for patient education. Just like if you went to an orthodontist and you brought your son to the orthodontist, you leave with a nice big packet of their exam findings, and you're ready to shell out $5,000 for your kid's teeth right then and there because they made such an impression and marketed to your emotions based on what this person needs and how bad their teeth will be later on in life if you don't get them fixed now. And I think, unfortunately, too often, especially new chiropractors I see, they jump right into practice and they don't follow some protocols that will hurt them in the long run. Like, for instance, just not scheduling patients, letting people come in whenever they want, instead of keep staying in tune with a tight schedule. Or every time that person a new person comes in, they don't give a real formalized report of findings and have something with them to take home and really make that impression, just like an orthodontist would if you went in to see them with your child. It's all marketing. You got to make sure that patient understands with certainty that they're in the right location and the right place to recover their health.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's a third thing as well that I thought of while you were talking, and that is there's perceived value in technology. I can do a visual postural assessment, sort of eyeballing it, but that's not nearly as impressive to the patient as when you're using, advanced systems to be able to illustrate what's going on with that person. And it's funny because when I first became a chiropractor, I wasn't really keen to that. I was not aware of it, but I worked in an office that had a couple of different things that were pretty technologically advanced compared to what I had seen in school. And anyhow, people remarked they would say, "I love your technology." And so I think people will respond to it. At least I've found that they have. Again, it shows something that's setting yourself apart, a competence that maybe the guy down the street doesn't have.
Yep, and as far as a documentation tool, it's been fantastic. As a matter of fact, some of the schools are starting to implement it as well in their curricula for the students to use for that reason, just alone for documentation, because we all are taught that posture is a portion of their assessment. We want to be able to reliably analyze their posture. And as an aside, because of that, some doctors that were not even connected with me in any way just contacted me that they did out of UCLA medical school in their exercise phys department actually just did a study with Posture Screen that'll be published hopefully this year that will show that it's both inter and intra examiner reliability is extremely high when using it, both in minimally dressed patients as well as patients that are dressed in more clothing, kind of like at a spinal screening. And that's very, very, very important to have because it shows that the assessment tool is not just for marketing. It's a clinical tool that you can use and be reliable that somebody else can go ahead and do that assessment and get the same readings that you did.
Oh, that's great. It's great to know because I wondered that as I've been using it, since it is taking a picture and it's all visual, how accurate. But nice to have another study that backs that up.
Yes, exactly. And you're breaking up a little bit there.
All right. Let me see if is this better?
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I will edit that out. Well, it's been a while since I bought my copy. So what does it cost these days?
Good question. We've added so many features. So if you bought your copy early on, you're grandfathered in. So back if you were with me in 2010, it was like $1.99. Of course, it didn't do much, and it had credits that used every assessment was 10 cents an evaluation. You pre-purchase your credits through iTunes, handled everything for it. As we've grown and literally grown into a real robust software company, we've added more and more tools along the way. Right now, if you're a new client, you would download it from the App Store. The iPhone, iPad version is the much more robust version compared to the Android version, but it's $39.99, and it's a one-time fee that you're charged for iTunes, and it's linked to your Apple ID account. And you can basically buy whatever module you want and use that and use what we've had from the beginning, which are credits for assessments. Or you can do what a lot of people have asked for a long time when we finally released it, is an unlimited use subscription for $15 a month. Basically what you do is you just do a subscription through iTunes with it, and up to 10 iPads or iPhones or any combination can use the same Apple ID and use it unlimited with all the modules unlocked for one low price per month.
Wow.
So it's still, so basically one client pays for it for quite some time, over a year's worth of use.
Well, what's one thing that's really exciting you about the business today?
What's exciting me about what our business is right now is we're using newer technologies that we're moving and gravitating into. One of the things that we're doing now, and it'll be out early next year, is we can do a three-dimensional assessment of a person's posture all on the iPad. There's a three-dimensional scanner that you clip onto the iPad, and literally you'll walk around the client, and it takes about 30 seconds to a minute, and you get a full scan of that person. So literally a replica of your client that you can look at and pan and zoom and rotate in any view. Right now, you can do that portion right now on Posture Screen if you get the camera. The camera is only $400, and it allows you to be able to look at your patient from any view. We're adding a really high-end posture analysis tool for clinicians that want even more, where you'll drop markers on that three-dimensional replica of the client and give you their displacements in three coordinates, both rotations and translations. So it might be overkill for 50% of those clinicians out there, but for the other clinicians where posture drives their practice, it'd be the next evolution of what our technology can do. And then we're also doing some integrations with some third-party softwares as well as third-party hardware, like devices that you can wear and wearable technologies that you can do. So hopefully soon you'll be able to do basically monitor your patient's progress when they're outside of your office. You can monitor different things that are going on and being utilized with their posture from hour to hour. And when they do a follow-up exam with you, you can kind of correlate that to their follow-up posture exam. So we're real excited about that, and we're real excited about something that is soon to be announced, where you can actually have your clients empowered to take photographs for you, the doctor, of their friends and spouses and people that they know, kind of like a virtual posture paparazzi. And it goes through our cloud to your device specifically because they're clients of yours and are linked to your cloud. And they can do virtual posture snapshots, and then you or your CA can do the analysis back at the office and be able to, as a way of public outreach, as a way of doing assessments when a person is traveling. You know, we've all had patients that have traveled for extended periods of time, and you need to be able to do follow-up assessments and track to see how they're doing. Anything from a movement assessment to a static posture to a body composition. You could check in with the patients if they haven't been in a while and have their husband take a photograph of their posture. And meanwhile, it's all done remotely. So that will be coming out in the early part of next year as well, too.
Wow, that sounds great, and that's all exciting stuff that we are going to look forward to here. You know, one of the things that I think is important to mention is maybe, I don't know, what have you found in terms of docs putting posture, you know, integrating that into their practices? Because I can tell you, from a patient's point of view, they may not even be aware of how important that is. You know, they're sitting in a cubicle, and all they know is that they have headaches. Mm-hmm. But they don't tend to be aware of their posture. So how has this been received? And, you know, are chiropractors embracing this?
Oh, absolutely. We have a lot of doctors that actually, originally the way this developed was, I originally had the idea with Don Harrison to do this posture analysis that was a watered down posture analysis for doctors to basically get involved and learn and drive them to more structural based corrective programs out there like chiropractic biophysics to learn how to correct somebody's posture, correct somebody's spine. And so it was originally planned to be just a marketing tool for doctors to get them to our seminars, and then it snowballed. And doctors were soon using it in clinical practice. And of course, it helped get people involved with rehabilitative techniques. I think that's where the biggest power is, because for a doctor or any specialist, if you're going to manage somebody's posture assessment, talk to them about the detriments of their posture, you better know how to fix it. Because if you don't, you're accountable. When you go to do that follow-up exam, what's your answer going to be to them when you never gave them any corrective exercises to do? Or you never gave them any protocols of maybe if they need some sort of traction, like a dental traction for their cervical spine or their low back. What's your answer to them when they fail to make changes, but they've come in for their adjustments, right? So adding a posture component to a practice, and it doesn't mean that they have to do CBP protocols. If they add some of the basics of the rehab protocols, I just happen to be an instructor and I'm biased and I think that we have one of the best techniques out there for rehab the spine and posture. But if they add just some basic protocols of exercise content, they should see some predictable changes with the person's posture. And what I found in practice, while I'm very excited about x-ray findings and correcting someone's sagittal plane curves, the patients don't really get it a lot of times. They can see their teeth, and that's why they're excited when they go to the dentist and they have straight teeth, right? And their teeth are healthy. They can't see their spine. So we have to really teach our patients, that the posture really is, the analogy that chiropractors have used long before me, that posture is the window to the spine. We have to teach them, because if they're aware of it, they're aware of what they need to fix it if we've taught them. And then they're our best referral source. I can't tell you how many times that I taught a patient how to read posture, and then they referred everybody with bad posture, regardless if they had symptoms, right? So, you're pretty much not doing what you can from both a marketing and documentation standpoint clinically if you're not looking at the static start of all movement, which is posture.
Yeah, I agree. And what a great tool you've provided all of us chiropractors to be able to assess that and explain it and educate folks.
Thank you.
Well, I want to shift now and talk to just the broader picture of success as a chiropractor, since this is the Chiro Business Mojo podcast and you do have some business experience. What would you say is holding most folks back from being successful?
There's a lot of things that, in my opinion, hold people back. Number one, it's their own headspace, for one. They don't believe that they can do things themselves. And let me pause here. Can you still hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. So getting back to that, it's their own headspace. They don't believe that they can do certain things or achieve certain goals. And so they put that self-limiting doubt within themselves, no matter what. And it doesn't have to be just practice. It's anything in life. I think number one, that's the thing that holds people back. In practice, number two is we all need some sort of coach. Okay. I was blessed early on that my coach in the very beginning was Don Harrison, who had extremely successful practices. And he was essentially my initial practice coach. And then later on, I actually got some practice coaches as well too. One of the practice coaches I used that helped me tremendously was Dr. Fred DiDomenico of Elite Coaching. One of the things that I found, just like anything else, I had a coach when I compete in powerlifting. I have a coach right now competing in CrossFit, in sports. You need to have a coach in practice too, because you need to speak to somebody that's failed already at doing certain things and learn from those mistakes, what they've done. And, just recently talking to several new doctors at seminars, they need to learn from people that have been out for a long time. Not that we have all the answers, but we've usually tripped enough times that we can say, you know what, you need to stay away from doing X, Y, and Z, and give our experiences so they don't make those mistakes. So I think that the biggest thing that a person needs is you're never smart enough to not have a coach. You need to have a coach for one reason or another. One of the biggest things that I found with a coach was my practice was very personality driven. I could literally say what I believed because I believed in myself and believed in my abilities as a chiropractor, that patients pick up on that. They pick up on your certainty. They pick up on your convictions and your passion. What I found was when I was not at the office, sometimes associate doctors do not have that conviction and passion that you did. So you have to have systems of checks and balances in place to make sure that it's not just a personality-driven practice, which I see so oftentimes that very charismatic people or people that are very true to themselves, they can help a lot of people. They step out of practice and their practice takes a nosedive. Yeah. And I found that out pretty quickly when I sold my practice. I sold it to the wrong person, and he crashed a business that he refused to get a practice coach. And I had somebody that was willing to coach him. And in 6 months, he failed and had to close the doors to the practice. And I had a successful practice for 12 years. So as much as you can build up a practice, it can be ruined by a person's headspace as well too, that maybe doesn't have those same protocols. So I think a coach can help avoid a lot of those failures, especially early on in practice.
Well, on the subject of failures and challenges, what are some of the failures or challenges, obstacles you've overcome, and what were the lessons you learned?
Basically, early on with a software company, one of the challenges that I learned is that you can't do everything yourself. I was a great chiropractor, but I'm not a programmer. Okay. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a business person. I'm not a bookkeeper. I think just like in practice, you try to do everything yourself because you think that you're going to save money. And in the end, it costs you way more money than you think because you're spending so much time trying to learn other professions that you're losing the time and expertise that you have, which is caring for patients. So I think that one of my biggest obstacles was I tried to do everything and micromanage everything in the very beginning in both my chiropractic practice as well as my software business. And then listening to coaches, I started delegating. And I was much happier for it because we all have things that we're good at. We have things that we like to do that are not necessarily the best for the business. I like to learn how to program some basic things, and my programmer tells me, listen, stick to what you do well, which is teaching doctors, and I'll stick to keeping the programmers in check. So I have a chief technology officer that does all that for me. I have a chief marketing officer that handles everything. I don't need to be the one setting up trade shows for me or setting up hotel stays or booking cars and things like that. Or do we advertise on Facebook this month, or what do we put on Facebook for a post? I have people that do that now for me because in the end, if you surround yourself with people that are very good at what they do, it will bring you and rise the bar to you. It will make you better. And it's cheaper in the long run to hire good people than to try and save money and do it all yourself.
Yeah, I love that advice. There's a lot I think any of us could apply ourselves and learn to, for example, maybe create a website. But, the time involved to be able to get up to a proficient level, to me, is not worth it. And that's one of the things I've learned as well. Hey, just get someone and get it off your plate.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's how one of the reasons I got into CBP. I made the first website, idealspine.com, for many years, being a chiropractor, trying to learn how to code websites. And, early on it was, it served its function. I mean, it was good for what it was. But then we came to that point again where Dr. Deed Harrison and myself, we said, you know what? I'm no longer an expert with this. We have to hire real professionals. And it literally, the branding change that happened with CBP Technique was a miracle. Just changing the branding and what we had made us look so much more professional. And we had all the same content, but it was the way it was perceived. So let that be a lesson to you young chiropractors out there. Start with getting the right staff and hire the right people to do your web design. That's for sure.
Well, who are some of your heroes?
Heroes in chiropractic profession, honestly, I have to say would be Dr. Don Harrison. He's what kept me from, dropping out and going to medical school. So I would say he's my number one hero in chiropractic. I have a lot of mentors in chiropractic profession itself, like his son, Deed Harrison, and my practice coach at the time, even though I'm not in practice anymore. And then a lot of professionals that are in our profession. I would say from a hero perspective and people that I look up to, I would say next in line would be my father. My father did things that I didn't think were possible, going back and getting college degrees while working full-time as a police officer, while training to become Mr. Florida in bodybuilding, and raising a family all at the same time. And, he was the one that told me that I could do anything in my life as long as I believed that I could do it and never give up. And so I would say that he is my number one hero outside of chiropractic.
That's great, and especially, it ties in with what you said early on, which is Headspace.
Yep.
It sounds like he really let you know it is in your head.
Well, it was. I mean, here's the prime example. I wanted to get out and start my practice. Nobody would give me a loan to start my practice. I got so frustrated, found office space. I was working as an associate, very unhappy. I wanted to open up my own business. It was that time. A lot of associates get to that point where it's time that they either buy into that practice or they move on and start their own practice. And I was at that point. And nobody would give me a loan. So my parents, especially my dad, they didn't have money to give me to start, a practice. My dad was a police officer. So, I believed in myself, and he taught me, you know what? As long as, it's okay if you fail as long as you give it your best, right? Nobody could ever ask more. People are going to fail. That's how you learn. Take a chance. And if you speak to any entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs have failed in things. And the thing that they always have in common, and every chiropractor is an entrepreneur, is you have to take chances sometimes in life. I took a chance, and instead of a loan, I took out business platinum credit cards. And at that time, anybody and their brother could get credit cards. So I took out about $15,000 in credit cards and opened a practice on credit cards. And talk about taking a chance. That's what I did because I believed in what I was going to do.
That's great news because, I've talked to a lot of folks who are just starting out, and they have a similar story really because of what happened with credit in 2008 and 2009. Mm-hmm. It's just become very difficult for folks just starting out. And so that story is becoming more and more common. The practice started on credit cards.
Yep, absolutely. And I turned it into a lease and I was able to pay it off. But, you just have to do things smart. And I would say get with somebody that's done it before, either a coach or a mentor, and pick their brains and pick as many brains as possible because you'll find that you won't make the same mistakes, hopefully.
Well, Doc, you've provided a lot of great advice and tips so far. We do have some final thoughts as we head towards the end of the interview. Do you have a favorite book you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Well, again, as favorite books would go, I was kind of a spine geek, so all of them were based on spinal techniques. So I would say the CBP structural cervical spine rehabilitation of the cervical spine. That's available through Chiropractic Biophysics. I'm kind of partial on that because I helped put the book together, but it is something that I always looked to and practice because there was a lot of information in there that I didn't have a part in writing that was from Deed Harrison and Don and a guy named Dr. Jason Haas, that I knew how to fix certain conditions that I had not yet seen in practice because I read their rehabilitative methods in that textbook. So I think that was one of my go-tos. That's one of my favorite books.
Well, we will link to that in our show notes page when this episode goes live, and then people can click on it, check it out, and grab a copy if they want.
Wonderful.
What's the best business advice you've ever received?
I guess the best business advice would be to get people that handle your books and get a good accountant. and also a financial planner early on. That would be probably the best advice that I would have, because, I made really dumb mistakes in business. I didn't realize early on, when you take draws out of the business, nobody taught me that, hey, you have to also pay taxes on those things. So early on, I owed the IRS a lot of money, because we would take draws not realizing that, this isn't normal wages, that we take money out, and then a rude awakening. So having the right people on the financial side to make sure you're doing the right things. I mean, we laugh about things like that, but early on, I'm sure we were taught in business class, in chiropractic school, but it was one of those things, and maybe I was absent that day. I wasn't paying attention, and, it's one of those things, you never make that mistake again. So surround yourself with the right people from a business standpoint, like a good accountant and bookkeeper is my best business advice, and a good business attorney.
Yeah, all of those I think are essential, just from basic things. If you want to make a new purchase, we always we consulted with our accountant to say what's the best way to structure this debt, or do we
absolutely
cash and loan it? Do we loan our money to the business and the business? So many
absolutely.
ways.
Absolutely. And we don't know. We're chiropractors, right? We know how to fix a person's spine and get them healthy. We're not really trained on that aspect of it. And if you don't take the time to get with the right person, you're going to lose a lot of money later on in life. And let's face it, you're no good as a chiropractor if you can't keep the doors open.
Yeah, true. And that's part of why we're doing this. We want to help people keep their doors open. That way they can keep spreading the message of chiropractic.
Awesome.
Well, this has been a fantastic interview so far. I can't thank you enough for your time. What is the best way for folks to find out more about you and about PostureCo?
I guess the best way to get a hold of us is through our website at www.postureanalysis.com. You can also get a hold of me by going to email-wise is Dr. Joe, DRJOE, at posturescreen.com. And you can call us on the phone number as well, too. The phone's on the website as well, too, 866-577-7297.
All right. Well, Dr. Joe Ferrantelli, thank you again for your time today.
Hey, thank you, and it was an honor being on here with you.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.